Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. Today we're joined by John Soforic, author of The Wealthy Gardener and his new book, The Five-Year Crusade, a follow-up in which he shares more timeless wisdom on money and purpose and provides a guide with principles and systems to build the life you want. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate you having me.
All right. I'm trying not to geek out too much. I'm excited. I really liked your first book, The Wealthy Gardener. It's kind of been my go-to now for introductory stuff for people who don't know kind of where to go on that in the financial space or personal development space, but also like graduation gifts and things like that. I think it's a good first step. It may, I don't know, even first step. I mean, I think it's pretty complete, particularly with the 5-Year Crusade. It sort of rounds things out. I don't think you need to make it more complicated, or you've taken a lot of really good philosophies and put them all together. So you wrote The Wealthy Gardener. I think it's an instant modern classic, better than Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I know a lot of my contemporaries were influenced by. And I'm not alone. It has over 1,000 5-star reviews on Amazon. It's doing great. For the listeners, can you share what The Wealthy Gardener book is about and why you think it's so popular?
I think that it's popular because I wrote that book for my son, which is kind of unique. Sometimes that purpose bleeds through. So my son was graduating from college and I was retiring about the same time. So we were on a trajectory of basically he was going into the world of the jungle of finance and I was leaving it. So at that point, I just felt a purpose to try to embed my lessons upon him at that point. Not that I'm a sage of any sort, but I have been through some struggles in my life and I have won financially in my life at that time. So I believe that I had something to say. The Wealthy Gardener became what I said. It became what I said in over 400 pages of what I said. And like what you said in the at the start, I've heard this book described as everything a person's ever read in success, all put into one book. Okay, yeah, there's a bunch of 4-page chapters. I wove it around a story, a narrative of a fictional story, so that my son could be engaged, and it wasn't dad preaching to son, which would probably be not too palatable for a son. We kind of worked on it together as over the course of a few years, where I'd write a chapter, he'd come back, edit, and we'd push back and forth. So long story short, it became a really special time for both of us in our lives. We shared a lot of intimate time when your son's away at college and you're home. It's you're trying to grasp things to have in common at that point, and we had this in common weekly, and it gave us time to speak deeply to one another about things that matter to us, ideas. The book was an outgrowth of that. We really just went real deep on this book. I created a fictional story, and it was a hybrid where there was a fictional story of a wealthy gardener, and it was also each chapter is layers and lessons of my own life where they were practical, and a lot of quotes about from people in the real world that also speak on the truth of each topic, because probably I was making sure, keeping myself honest, that I wasn't just making things up from some sort of standpoint of arrogance. So it became a really, really deep book and a really, really good read. And to be honest with you, with the reception of it, I don't know, Tim. It was just me, a first-time author writing a book. I published it and it went crazy. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how hard it was to get in the top 100 books in the country. We did get in the top 50, and it was just driven by a lot of good people who kind of liked the book. So Excellent. It went, and I can't say I'm a great social media guy. I'm not. I don't want to be. I'm a real estate guy. I'm a dad. I'm in semi-retirement now. So here on this podcast, I'm doing this because of you. But it's a rare place to find me online. So I don't know. The book just spoke to people. It resonated.
Yeah, yeah, I'm one of them. So thank you for that. Thank you for the book. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it sounds like a great way to stay connected to your kids is asking them for their advice and getting to do projects with them, right? And writing that book with them sounds like gold. I mean, I think that alone might be good advice for other people to have kids help them write down their story or something to that effect.
It's a lot easier for them to swallow that than for me to say, look, I mean, can you imagine walking up to a kid who's 20 years old, leaving college, and saying, I want to preach to you for a couple of years?
Well, that's what I accidentally do. I slip into that mode.
Yeah, man, it doesn't work. It's, at the same time, you need to have the right kid, the right person at that point. I shouldn't even say kid; they're adults,
Right.
who's receptive to that. I have a daughter who would absolutely not be receptive to that. So it was very unique. And the subtitle of the
Okay.
book is Life Lessons on Prosperity. I see the Phoenix Prosperity podcast.
Mhm.
Life Lessons on Prosperity between father and son, not from a father to a son. We were
Right.
kicking back and forth. It was a shared time. And I respect young people like that. They can kick back with a fresh set of questions and perspective. And you value that. So he kicked back. He contributed quite a bit to the book.
For sure. That's awesome. Excellent. Excellent. Love to hear that. Why the follow-up book?
Oh boy, that's the book I said I would never write, Tim. Why the follow-up book? Because that was a complete book. What I found was that a lot of people loved The Wealthy Gardener. Great. Okay, I had a popular book. I didn't need another popular book. I'm happy. So what I really tried to do is I felt a lot of people asked for more about the 5-Year Crusade, first of all. And that's what just got the wheels turning. The 5-Year Crusade, what can I say? Everybody asked what happened to the characters in the story. And it's like, well, it was just fictional characters, nothing. They didn't really live. It's over. That wasn't enough. And so I kept getting those kind of questions.
That means they were hooked. That was a really good story, and they
Yeah.
connected really well and wanted to close that loop.
What happened to Jimmy? What happened to Jared? What happened to oh, okay. So nothing. They didn't exist. That didn't work. I would say this though, Tim, what was meaningful to me was that I see that people had a good read, an entertaining book, but I needed to show them a way to live that lifestyle of that book. Okay, like success to me is a lived experience. It's not just, one of the fundamental principles that you'll see in my background here, quotes everywhere, is that success, is small efforts day in and repeated day in and day out. Well, I can see people read a book, but we still don't live the lifestyle. This became, how do you live the lifestyle, and how do you
Right.
keep yourself accountable to that lifestyle? What is it, first of all, and am I doing it, second of all? Human beings are just amazing creatures for delusion, myself included. And if we don't
Mhm.
track things, if we don't track what we're doing, it's very difficult to know what we really are doing. So, in the sense, I wanted to try to not figure out. I already figured it out. I lived it. I wanted to have a system that would be accountable, measurable, scoreable, trackable, of small things done daily that would lead to what I would call a prosperous lifestyle. One of the quotes in The Wealthy Gardener is that uh, success is a lifestyle. Well, what is that lifestyle? In the 5-Year Crusade, it embodied that. It came out to be, what is that lifestyle? With a tracking system and a point system that you can score, that you can just kind of get a feel for what we're talking about in real life. Not just watching a good, happy movie, being a good reader, and
Right.
moving on to your life, but here's how you can score it. I score it. I've done it all my life. And so I tried to do that in an entertaining story. Again, not easy. I'll try to do that again, not preaching again, not stuffing something down the throat, but just showing that if you wanted to track it, we actually made a tracker, a Crusader Tracker, that you can score a lifestyle and gamify the process of success. Boy, was that okay. You asked me a short question. I'm sorry.
No, that was a great answer. No, that's awesome. So success is kind of knowing the path, but also walking the path. And I think the Wealthy Gardener is maybe more of the how it works, and maybe the 5-Year Crusade is how to take action, right? How to follow through.
I would say that I would agree with you. I would say that the Wealthy Gardener is a book of principles, timeless principles. I was after that, inarguable. I would say that the 5-Year Crusade, I kind of expected a little pushback on that one, because now that's a book of actions, that necessarily small actions, but I wanted people to see that it was easier to live a disciplined life than it is to live an undisciplined life. And it really is. And I wanted to show them that there's a 30-day challenge at the end of that book. And if you can just take that challenge, you get to experience the flow of this.
Right. This isn't the same cover I saw on Amazon last time, but this is.
You're right.
Here it is. 5-Year Crusade. The easy way to achieve your impossible goals. Yeah, it has a challenge in the back, has all sorts of other resources as well, which are all great.
Yeah. So that's it. It was a book of actions. It was streamlined. It's accountable. It's for the people that really want to have, that are after the hard goals. You don't need all this stuff if you're just living an easy life. But if you really have hard goals, if you have big aspirations, like some of us just aren't happy without bigger aspirations. If you have that and you're not happy with your life, it's for people that want life change. Well, I think most people are willing to do things for life change. I believe that most people are willing to sacrifice. I don't believe that people are lazy forever. I believe that people who want change will sacrifice. And this is kind of what I wanted to show them, what the sacrifice really entails, in my opinion. And so I wrote a book to end that.
Right. We sometimes slip as well, right? We need reminders, right? A friend of mine, he posted a comment this morning about they're hiking Kilimanjaro next month, and he invited me to go with. I was like, oh, that's good. And he runs a program called Do Hard Things, and he talked about how he misses the structure, right, and being away from that. And I think a lot of people can understand that just leaving high school, right? Without the structure, you kind of drift, and you slip, and it's even if you are successful, and it's hard to maintain without a system or something like that. And I think I remember you got sick with COVID or something, and it knocked you down. And it was kind of a good reminder for you even as well. Is that right?
Well, yes. And when you say even for me, don't think that I'm like perfect. I need reminders with or without COVID. So absolutely, I do believe that a book like any of these books, you read them, you reread them, and you reread them. You're always trying to keep yourself. There's never an end to this. Yes, did I get knocked with COVID? Yeah, in a way that helped me really understand my own father's dementia. I understand what it's like to not do math. I understand what it's like to be able to have no function for over a year, except to read Harry Potter every day. I was bedridden, debilitated. I had nothing. I couldn't do my business. Thank God I had a real estate business that was pretty passive at the time. I would have been fired from any job there was. So yeah, I had to get myself back to square one, back in the grind, back in the small habits that contributed to my success in the past, and pick myself up. I can tell them, and it wasn't the first time in my life. Okay, so like that's the COVID situation, but I mean, this is a continual life process of falling off the wagon and getting back to the small efforts that help you win. Right. Those episodes when you're doing all the small things that help you win and basically live in a very purposeful life, they usually come at the times of crisis in your life. All of a sudden, oh, well, I have to do this. As an example, and when I'm in college, my best grades came during the sports season when I had as little time as possible. When I had the fewest hours to study, I got the best grades. Well, what the heck? All of a sudden, I cut out a lot of fluff, and so I got very focused. And you know what?
Right.
Those are the times you look back in life and you say, I'm proud of those times. I'm not so proud of the times when I wasn't in the sports and I was kind of nearly flunking out of college, being a frat boy. So
Right.
I'm always pulling myself back into the stream of a purposeful life. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I think we all struggle with maintaining intention and not drifting. So that's
Well,
very
I can
valuable
tell you
stuff.
this: I can never. I don't have the past that you do. You and your wife. You told me pre-recording of how what you did in college and the things you achieved. I wasn't that mature back then. I really wasn't. My achievements are far less, and I was a late bloomer in life, and it really took me to get in a situation where I had so much debt and so much hurt in my life that I had to choose to do hard things,
Right.
because the only way I can get out of that cage was to do hard things. But those hard things become less hard when they become more habitual. That's
Right.
what it becomes. It becomes a lifestyle that when I look back, I say, I'm still there. I prefer that lifestyle. I'm retired now and I could do anything. I could sit on a beach. I could do whatever. I prefer a lifestyle. I'm not happy without a lifestyle of purpose and focus and everything else that goes with that, whatever you call life, you know?
Right. I forget her name, the coach, but she said, "Life doesn't get easier. You do hard better."
Boy, isn't that true? Both are true, probably. I mean, you do, it does get easier, and sometimes it's because of your ability to do things, but sometimes, I mean, I'd be lying if I would say that my job right now is as hard as it was back when I had a chiropractic business at one point. I was flipping houses, and I also was managing a 70 unit rental business. Uh,
Wow.
that was peak. You know, is my
Sure.
life that hard now? No, I'm
Well,
like,
particularly after going through that, you think anything's easier now.
there's no question. There's no question about that. That everything is easier now. You have a point of reference that that shows you what hard really is.
Right.
You can always swing back toward that level if things get bad. You thank God you don't have to. But what you find in retirement is that you have so much free time that it's hard to. Now, what the challenge is that to stay on structure, you'll see a lot of people that don't have structure, don't have anything. They retire at 65. It's hard to keep yourself in a mindset where you just don't stop growing. You don't stop working, achieving, aspiring. You can start picking up sticks in the backyard. So that's the new game of it. When you have a choice to not work and you still choose to work and you still choose the purpose, that's the game of it in retirement. Speaking of the
Right.
older ages,
Right. Okay. Back to the book, 5-Year Crusade. Why 5 years for our listeners?
Tim, I've always, the funny thing is I get that question a lot, and I've never heard somebody say 5 years, but for me, I always had a picture in my office, wherever my office was at the time, and it had a pier, and that pier went out to a pond. And I always looked at that picture knowing that that pier represented to me the next 5 years. At the end of 5 years, I'm going to be somewhere. 5 years is long enough for me to change anything in my life. And at that point, I can stop and look around and choose again. But from now till the end of that pier, which is the unknown future,
Right.
all I have to do is take one step on that pier. And I know I'm okay. It's a small enough time for me, and this is just me, that I can actually focus on it and stay accountable. It doesn't feel like forever. It doesn't feel like nothing because it's so far out there, 20 years.
Right.
5 years is still here, but it's
Right.
far enough out to change everything. It's a whole new life. And if you look forward, if you look backwards, take your age right now. I'm 60 years old right now. If I look back at 55, geez, I didn't have COVID back then. I didn't have all these things that I went through in the last 5 years. I didn't have the 5-year crusade. I wasn't talking about that. I can just go back through so many. My son wasn't married. I just went down and visited my son's grandchild. So it
Oh,
goes
wow.
on and on and on. Everything 5 years ago. Just take yourself back count it all up, and you're going to see you have a new life. Now that new life is coming, whether you want it or not, and it's coming based on what you do. And a lot of times, that time can pass without doing anything without purpose. 5 years is everything to me. It's short enough time to manage, and it's long enough time to change everything.
Okay, right on. I like it. It reminds me a little bit of Bill Gates's quote: "Most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years." It seems
I
like
agree.
the problem with, like you said, 20 years or even 10 years is often you're a different person by the time you get there. You may not want the same things that you wanted at the same time.
I agree completely, Tim. I can kind of predict what I want in 5 years, but I'm even there. You're not sure, and you're free to course correct. Um, I would say that 5 years is probably the farthest out you can really predict who you might be. What you say is really, really, really important, because if you say, "Well, I want this when I'm 20," stop it. You don't
Right,
know what you want in 7 years, but okay, I get it. Set a big goal, and it gets you a direction.
right,
I know Bezos says he talks about 3 years. Maybe that's true with all the technology these days. Gates said that about 10 years, a long, long time ago. Maybe he would change his mind by now. Who knows?
right.
I'm saying 5 years. Everybody's got a different idea, and who knows?
I love it. I love it. It's easier financially for most of my investments too in the 5 year time.
You're not
Yeah,
kidding.
I enjoy that. So, John, where did you learn to write?
Tim, I didn't learn to write. I didn't learn to write. I can't say, like, well, I should say this. I mean, okay, it's like, where did I learn to bowl? Okay, in college, I did take a bowling class. Where did I learn to write? And I should have paid attention to this. I did take a creative writing course in college back when I'm like, what, 19 years old. But I I should have paid attention to that, because of all I almost flunked out of college because of my stupidity until I almost flunked out of college. Then I had to turn around and get straight A's, and I did that too. But that was the only course I got A's in. I really liked that course. I should have paid more
Okay.
attention to my interest there. I
Okay.
don't
Well, it just seems.
think. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You don't
I
think?
don't think of writing as something that you. I read a lot. I think of writing as thinking.
Hmm.
And what did I learn to think? Well, geez, that's my whole life. You really, when you're an entrepreneur, if you don't think correctly and think clearly, you die. You run out of money. And so I think writing is thinking on paper.
Right.
Uh, how does it all get put together? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I didn't take
Okay.
writing courses.
I really enjoy. I think everybody sort of does. They can follow things through story. It's more compelling. Um, were parables hard to sort of tell a story about telling a story?
Yes, but magically fun. Like that's so like when so for everybody listening, when Tim and I meet, he says, "Let me tell you about myself. I'm a nerd," and that was our initial conversation. And so I would say that, well, here's my nerd. Here's my nerd. I like thinking up stories. Let me think about this. So how can I get this through in a way that is a parable? How can I tell this story? I think that's fun, because you can say, well, through a parable. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. The greatest teachers of all time teaching parables. I'm just trying to be in those shadows a little bit and seeing if I can actually pull it off. And I find out that I can. So is it hard? Yes. But I find it immensely
It's
fun, and that's
enjoyable.
that's just the geek in me. So yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. You talked a little bit about sort of the why for the new book. Has it grown in terms of goals for it, like programs? Do you have like behavioral wealthology classes?
No, no, I don't. I don't have goals right now, Tim. Um, what my goal is, like, it's not like, I think there's some point where you say, okay, what my goal is. Maybe I get a big burning long-term goal that I want to do. Right now, what my goal is to get 30 points a day. What does that mean to people that haven't read the book? It's everything's through the book is a lifestyle. I want just to use my days in a way that is, I guess you look back and you say, I'm proud of that day.
Right.
That was a sweet day of satisfaction, even if it was a cluster mess. Um, my goal is to live with purpose. Now, I have things I do every day that are very, very purposeful to me, but they don't attach to the long-term end achievement. So I'm dropping that for right now until I have something better.
Okay.
But I'm really, really, really happy to not have a goal that I'm chasing at the minute. I'm
Okay.
good financially. I have enough. I have a good life. I'm in a sweet spot with family right now. My kids are really great.
Your
Family's
grandpa.
really great.
Congratulations for that.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm content. Spiritually, I'm growing. I love that. I do have a kind of a wealthy bookheads thing that I do. It's a podcast and a website that it keeps me growing right now and pushes me
Okay.
towards things. I love that. So I'm just doing things to fill up my time with things of purpose. That's the goal.
Awesome. Awesome. So, um, and for our listeners who may not know, some of the bigger points you get on there is for tracking, but also the impact hours, right? Is working on the your free time on things that push your purpose forward. Which you call planting acorns, which I love to. I keep this is on my desk. It's a little acorn
Ah,
for the listeners who aren't on YouTube. Yeah, that's
I love it.
that's the foundation too of my why I chose Oak Street Assets as my investing company name and so forth. So
Awesome.
that's what it is, right? It's planting seeds.
I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that that acorn can sit there dormant forever like that on your desk.
Right?
And then you can plant that thing in the ground. And you don't even know why, but something happens. And there's just this mysterious force that takes over. I love the similarities between that and what happens whenever you put your mind on a goal. And all of a sudden, your mind gets planted in a different focus, a different fertile soil, and things start to magically happen. I love the parallels between that acorn and
Hmm.
an oak tree and a human being who puts their minds on something like me at the age of 30 and stops wondering and gets very clear. And all of a sudden, my potential starts to grow and grow and grow. I do. That's a parable of the book. And I do have a lot of people who show me their acorn, and I love that.
Nice. Nice, excellent. So there's a number of core principles throughout the book. One of them was expectizing, which was I think chapter 11, right? And um, is that catching on? You've seen people start use that because it's kind of a combination of faith and visualization.
I don't know, Tim. The funny thing is whenever you write a book, you don't interact beyond the end page. Yeah, some people will, you'll hear comments back and forth at times, but you don't know. There might be, 1,000 books sold in a month. Who knows? And then you don't hear a thing. All I know is in that chapter, and that's a vulnerable chapter to write. To say, like, I have a lot of times that's a very spiritual chapter to me. It's a guided meditation. Again, I wanted to show people what I do in terms of my process. How I can explain this forever. Put your mind on something, try to be positive about it, expect the best, and preach. Or I can just try to create this guided meditation that puts a person in myself, puts me into the flow of what I do, what I've always done, and what I believe is magical. The mental aspect of expectation is just the sweet spot you want when you're talking about a goal and your future, and this feeling of optimism that is not just hoping and wishing or even desiring. It's more like game time. You walk on that athletic field, and it's time to play. And this isn't time to want. This isn't time to wish. Hope you're going to do it. It's not time for all of that. It's time for expecting. And there's just a magic to that mindset. And I even on the audiobook, Dennis Kleiman, who did the audiobook, we went back and forth and back and forth, and we embedded that into the audiobook. He actually did the expectancy experiment. So you just try to focus on this daily. And then, I would hope that people just kind of catch on to that and then just maintain that practice on their own individually. The whole idea is just to put your mind on what you want and do so in a mindset of expectation and to have belief in the power of faith. That's all. And so, yeah, expectizing. I didn't need to stick that out there. I didn't need to be that vulnerable, but it felt very vulnerable because now, there's a lot of people that might say that they just don't believe in things they don't see, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. I happen to believe in things I don't see, and I take a very humble stance at that. And I thank God for all the blessings in my life. I know I did my work, but I know I was blessed a lot along the way, and I think my mindset had something to do with that.
For sure. I agree. There's so many examples, but one of them, for example, is Michael Phelps, right? People talk, oh, well, he visualizes each race in advance. He's like, it's actually more than that. He expects the outcome, right? Yeah. It's a shift mentally, and there's a big difference, I think, between just thinking about it versus expecting it. Very, very true.
As an example, to roll with what comes to mind is that I was talking to a person once, and they said, well, we all think that like once we're, you're in the money situation, you're trying to get above the money situation, so you're not always thinking about money. And it's like she asked me, what was it like to reach that point of financial independence and retire? What was that like? And like that sounds like the thing, right? That's what you want if that's the goal. And I said, to be honest with you, it was really anticlimactic for me. I mean, it was wonderful in the sense that, yeah, it unburdens you. Okay, it does. But I had been there so many times in my mind, expectizing, going there, that I felt like I ran through that finish line so many times that it was familiar to me. So familiar that it didn't feel like a big celebration. It just kind of felt like a letdown. And I said, okay, I've been here. I expected to be here. And I'm here. Whippy, there's no parade. Now what? You get to the now what stage. That's all.
Right. Well, even if there is a parade, the parade ends at some point.
It always ends. There's no end until you're under the ground. There's always challenges ahead of you. Absolutely. The challenges of retirement there's no schedule. And so I see a lot of people do it wrong. So it becomes a whole new challenge.
Right. There's another, I'm thinking of sports analogies again, or people here again. Like Tom Brady, for example, was somebody who continued to work on growth the whole time. Systems, right? He kept grinding. That Anyway, so Larry Bird is another example, right? He worked hard. His younger brother, does anybody know Eddie? Eddie came behind him. He broke all of Larry's records. Everybody said he was way better. He was going to show up and blow everybody away, but he didn't have the work ethic because things came easy to him early on. He didn't continually grind and work on improving himself over time. And
wow.
Nothing.
No, I never heard that. And I should know that Larry Bird was my hero in high school. I mean, I grew up where I worshiped that man. I'm a basketball player. So, wow. No, I never heard about this, Eddie. So
exactly. Right. I mean, he had so much potential, but if you don't have the systems and the drive and the clarity for what you want and what you're willing to sacrifice to get it.
Yeah. If you want to be with Larry Bird, right? I mean, it's like, I remember Kevin McHale, his teammate, of course, for those who don't know, they said, well, would you ever like to be Larry Bird? And Kevin McHale said, no, I want to have a life. So to each his own, right? But for those like me who say, I want a life, and that meant not always being so overburdened by money or whatever your goal is. I wanted the change in my life. I had to become Larry Bird for a while. I had to do that to make the change. Now, maybe you get to the change and you say, okay, now I don't have that. I can take it easier then. Maybe, who cares? It's up to you. But the times like a 5-year crusade, I always look at it like this: when an airplane goes off the ground, it uses all this energy to get to the altitude, and then it cruises, right? It like uses 20% of its fuel cruising and 80% of its fuel getting up there. I look at it like that. Like, again, that parable is almost in the book, but I couldn't fit it in that made sense. But that's how I see it. And sometimes you got to become Larry Bird. So then you get up there and you can be Kevin McHale. It's still really good up there, but you don't have
Right.
to fight like Larry Bird. It's not for everybody, right?
Right. Or sustainable, maybe. That's what maybe Mikhail was talking about, is balance, life balance and stuff. And that
Yeah,
reminds me of, are you familiar with Arthur Brooks?
I am.
Oh, he's got some great books. I'm a big fan of his too. There's seasons to life, right? Maybe when you're younger, your 20s and 30s, it's about, learning, educating, adventuring, but taking risk, right? And,
Mhm.
and and making sacrifices. And then there's maybe your next season, which is more family oriented or production oriented, right?
Yeah,
And then you get to the next one, maybe more comfort, right? You can,
sure.
but still purpose. That's another thing he talks about in a previous book too. Is how, particularly athletes, again, they're very successful early on, then they lose the ability to play, and that was their identity, and they sometimes they're miserable if they can't transition into the next phase.
Absolutely. You see it all the time with athletes. I mean, and who are we to judge, because that's such an adrenaline rush that they're experiencing that
Sure.
we in the stands will never know. So like they're coming from the ultimate high down to, I want to be with my family. I want to spend more time with my family, and then we'll see. I always say, okay, let's see how that works out 2 years later, because they need to replace it with something, and just sitting around and having conversations is usually not enough to replace that with. They they have a real challenge that I don't know how they replace it. Sometimes they replace it with destructive habits. They're just trying to figure things out and take. So it's not so easy. I see a lot of people
No.
hit retirement and do that. I do believe in seasons. I think that the first 20 years, I used to say it was 3 acts. Even in my book, I used to say life is 3 acts. 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90. And I've kind of had to revise that for myself. I think it's like 4 quarters, because 0 to 20, I'm just trying to figure out life and socialize. 20 to 40, extreme learning and productivity and trying to figure things out in the business world and finance and family and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
40 to 60, I kind of find my stride big time. But 60, now I'm 60 to 80. Well, that's a whole different game. I just need it's a spiritual emphasis. There's a different
Right.
energy without it. I feel like friendships matter more. On and on and on. But there are different seasons. There's no doubt about that.
As you say, spiritual, maybe impact for giving back, that sort of becomes more of a focus, sort of purpose and existential issues. But again, I think this is Brooks again talking about how maybe in that third quarter you start giving back more locally, community and other stuff, and then if you can transition to the final stage, right, where you have a huge impact, like Mother Teresa impacting humanity, right? That's sort of the ultimate. Right, and which is right, just helping locally is amazing. It's just
Absolutely.
an
Absolutely. Some of the
interesting.
people that I know that I admire the most are they don't have huge shadows, but meaning like you don't know them. In fact, they're not known outside of our town.
Right.
But oh my God, they're the best people I know. They like represent Christianity far more than anybody I know. Some of these what you'd call small lives, but they're engaged, man, and they're doing great. And so everybody has a different purpose. Everybody has a different set of interests. Everybody has a different set of ambitions. And so like when that retirement comes, I know that I still have ambitions and I still have purposes. It's just that you try to intrinsically, you have the option to do what you want now. And so you can really take advantage of that, as opposed to like just having to do things, so I think that's one of the coolest things about retirement, is that you can kind of do things you want, with the caveat that you have to understand that if you just choose comfort, you're going to be a miserable son of a gun. It's just, we are wired for purpose. I don't know why, but those who seek comfort don't know what to do, and they grow miserable, and retirement becomes really, really bad, if you ask me.
Right.
So there are some
That's
rules with retirement, and finding purpose is one of them.
okay. Sure. I'd say that in this day and age, in this culture, and the how amazing the world is also a problem for people starting, right? Choosing that sort of a hedonic focus, right? The pleasures and all the cheap, easy food and just watching screens all the time. It's just, I can just get easy pleasure. Why would I do hard things? And then they wake up and they're 35 and they realize, whoa, right? Is this all there is? And that's
well,
also,
here's the thing. Now, here's the thing. Like so hedonism. You talk about that, the hedonistic philosophy. There's a paradox to hedonism. Those who actually seek pleasure get anything but. Superficial pleasure leads to anything but pleasure. Those who seek hard things get pleasure. And so that's the interesting thing about hedonism. I used to be completely against that superficial pleasure thing. And as opposed to trying to find, I would be more geared to try to find a deeper fulfillment. Well, you find out that the deeper fulfillment leads to the hedonism that I was preaching against. It's a paradox. And so if you really want to give yourself the most pleasure, you're going to find a little bit of struggle in there. And that's the game of it.
Right. As I've gotten older, I've also appreciated that the removal of pain is one of my favorite pleasures. Like I finally fixed something that's hurting. I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome. It doesn't hurt anymore. Anyway,
I see that you're in the finance now. Finance guys never retire. It seems like they always, because it's an intellectual challenge a lot of times, in the finance game. And you see the Warren Buffett's. Well, why would he go away? Like, he's the famous one. What's he gonna do? Go out and plant daisies in the backyard? So like you see, that's an interesting profession because it becomes an intellectual challenge for so many people in the finance field, especially if you're of your own business, like it looks like you do. I would like to see like when it's time to retire, how you retire. Like it's challenging because people want to stay in there. They want to stay engaged. And while you're not digging ditches, you might just stay with your clients,
Right. I mean, I do enjoy it. I enjoy my clients. I enjoy that, and I'll do it for a long time. But I've seen people. I'm starting to see some of my colleagues sort of transition out, right, and they just slowly get more and more passive. I mean, you have a portfolio. How active are you in managing it?
Me, well, it's interesting you say right now at this minute, because in real estate, people want to say that's passive, and it is. 95% of the time,
it can be.
I have over 100 units, and I have an office manager and staff, that kind of crap. But this is the 5%. I was looking at I was getting ready for this podcast, and I was running from this other. I'm in the field with the guys right now, so like that's the game for me. I'm in it right now. I don't look so youthful, and so when I was put on this camera, I'm looking at me and like, man, I need some makeup. I need to look better for this podcast than I do. But no, this is the reality of it. The reality of it is just two nights ago in my apartment complex, a main water line burst and took down a ceiling. Well, I don't have too many guys. A couple guys are away. One guy's there. I'm on site. I got to shut down the entire apartment complex. I got to get in there and shut down all the water. We got to fix the problem. I'm in there with them. The next morning, we're fixing another problem. We didn't pass an inspection. We got all kind of electrical problems over here. We went back. It's a nightmare right now. My office manager's crying. My main worker, he's bitching because he's being micromanaged. I can't. I got bags under my eyes. This is what passive real estate looks like in those bad times. So yeah, it's passive most of the time. But right now, I'm doing nothing but grunt work. I'm a laborer.
You don't have third-party property management taking care of those things for you.
I am the third party at this moment. They're not always there. The problem with it is I have a full timer. Sometimes that's not enough. I have a full timer or part timer. Sometimes in real estate, the game is you have to get bigger to hire these guys. Maybe a team that says, okay,
right,
we're just gonna be the nonstop, and they're going to sit around a lot. I don't have that, so I own all my properties outright. I'm a from a standpoint of finance like you, it's indefensible what I do. My return on equity is terrible, you would say, because I don't want to take loans out and buy more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm quite happy with the cash flow being a big fat river every month. So that's what I have. That means I have about 100 plus, maybe 110 units. So that's enough for me to hire a guy that's working full time, and he's quite frankly more than enough, except when this happens. And it happens. So yeah, I'm in it. I'm in the river deep right now.
Okay, right. Just other side of that though, that's kind of what a lot of my investors like when they're limited partners in a syndication. They really are passive. They don't have to deal with the tenants or the toilets and which that's what I would consider real passive. When I had my own single family rentals and I had other people managing them, it still wasn't passive.
No, but you know what? Here's the thing. The stock market's not passive. People say, well, you know what? That's really passive. Yeah. Go through a 50% drop. The price you pay for your big time returns over time is the anxiety, the not knowing what's going to happen. How you feel, you can't predict when you go through a 50% drop in the market and you don't know if this is the last one. And you pay the price no matter what. I didn't like to have the price paid for me sitting passively, hoping this would all turn around. I like to pay the price of getting out there and making it. I had more control in a real estate business than I did with stocks. That said, I have a lot of money in stocks, but I prefer one over the other. There's always a price to be paid. Maybe in your limited partnerships, maybe that's the deal. I don't know. But for me, I've always had to pay a price.
Right. I'm in the market as well, but it's so due for a correction. I want to like get out of it a bit more, but I'm heavy into real estate myself.
Yeah.
Anything big coming up? You said you don't have any more books on the horizon. Any thoughts? You enjoy doing that?
Oh, do I divulge what I'm doing now? Yes. So
publicly, it'll keep you accountable.
I'm sorry.
If you do it publicly, it'll keep you accountable.
Oh, I'm nobody's harder on me than me. Like I'm not one of these people that need you to tell me to do one more rep on the on the push-ups or something. So what I found was interesting is that I see a growing movement that I think is really interesting. I'm personally a non-drinker, and so that's the segue. I see a lot of people getting curious about what their potential would be like if they stopped drinking alcohol.
That's a growing fad here. It's in Europe, consumption's down and all that. Yeah,
it's almost getting popular, and so people are starting to talk about it. Talk about it to the degree that like it interests me, because I know that my potential skyrocketed when I stopped drinking alcohol around 30. So I have an interest in that subject. So I would say that I have a really interesting book that's going to be coming out on that, that takes advantage of everybody who's talking about it. It's really interesting. Their own testimonials about why they stopped drinking. So yeah, that's going to be on the horizon. That said, it's one day at a time. I'm happy to just use my time for that and for the Wealthy Book Heads, which is just a continual lifelong learning process. I know that I've always read books. I've always shared what I've loved with books. If you like The Wealthy Gardener, you're basically seeing me sharing everything I've ever learned through books and through authors, things like that. Right. So the Wealthy Book Heads became a way for me to force myself to read great books and to actually curate that into something where I won't forget them. So it became a love of learning, and that's what that whole site is all about. That's what I'm doing.
Excellent. Well, John, so if people would like to connect, learn more about the Wealthy Gardener and maybe Bookheads, where can they go? What should they do?
I live at the Wealthy Bookheads. That's where I live. So I spend my time there most of the time. You can find me there. There's contact information there. That's where I spend my time.
Is that wealthybookheads.com or something like that?
It is. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got a picture of a guy with a book growing out of his head. That's how you'll know you're there.
All right. All right. Well, this has been awesome. Very much appreciated. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Thank you very much, John Soforic, for joining me today. Very much appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Inspired by our guests? Visit PhoenixProsperityPodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.